Let's Take This Outside with Marianne Iveson, the podcast where she speaks to athletes, outdoor professionals, and scientists about why they connect with nature.
Will Gadd is one of the top adventure athletes in the world. He is a National Geographic Adventurer of the Year and recently became the first person to climb a frozen Niagara Falls. He is best known for wild outdoor adventures in multiple different sports, but he's most proud of his ability to complete these adventures safely and share them with others. He has appeared in, hosted, or produced more than 100 global TV projects. He is an award-winning writer, filmmaker, and dad. Please welcome one of my new favorite outdoor dudes. Here is Will Gadd. Will Gadd, welcome to Let's Take This Outside. And you are hiking up a hill to go climbing.
That's right. Here in the Canadian Rockies, another view for you. Doesn't suck. I am outside. I'm following the directions on your podcast.
Yeah, you know what? I should start putting that, like, the mandatory interview is you physically being outside. I should also be on a hike. I'm sure the internet service would be very reliable.
It's pretty good for about the next 20 minutes, so we'll get this done. I like it.
Okay. Will, you and your family live in Canmore, right?
That's right, Canmore, Alberta.
Yeah, there's always a love fest for Canmore. I'm sure you would know some of the other guests I've had. But how did you end up settling there with your family? I couldn't think of a better place in Canada for what you do.
I think you just said it. There's no better place in Canada for what I do. There's a lot of ice climbing here. I'm a guide, so got a lot of good guests that come here and great ice climbing. And it's just it's a pretty good place to live. But we're battling the same mountain town battles as everyone in terms of affordable housing for people who do live here and try to work here. It's gotten tough, but look where we are. It's ridiculous. So there it is.
So my sister lived in Canmore for years, and I know a lot of people who did live in Canmore, but a lot of people moving to like Cochrane or Calgary, but still so accessible to the mountains. I'm sure you have a lot of friends in the same boat.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of friends from town over the years who've had to move to Golden, Cochrane, Calgary, Revelstoke, which is not much cheaper now. But it's a problem. We can have access, but if there's no housing, then people can't live here, especially with families. It's really hard to make that work now, and it's too bad. It's a problem.
You were one of the best adventure athletes in the world, but where did this start from you? What did your childhood look like? How do you become this world famous ice climber?
Well, world famous is relative. There's like 4 people in airports ever. But I grew up in the Canadian Rockies in Calgary and Jasper, and then lived in the U.S. Rockies and had a pretty good career in publishing. But ever since I was young, my parents would take me into the mountains, and it's contagious. Obviously that's what it caught with me, and I'm still going into the mountains with my family today. And the ice climbing part, I just like it and find it fulfilling, and somehow made a career out of it. I think it was Seth Ferris. He's a interesting individual, but he's like, you don't have to be the best, you just have to be the only. And so I was the world's first professional icicle climber, and it worked out for me, and I'm very lucky.
You became the first person to ice climb Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
What does this process look like? Like, who do you talk to that you're like, I want to climb where does this even start? And then, like, the execution of it, where you what does that look like?
It's like any project. You find out who you need to get a permit from, whether it's construction or climbing Niagara Falls, and then you call them up, can I have a permit? And they say no. And then you have to make it so that it's a good win for everybody. And it took 2 years out of my life going back and forth to Buffalo, New York to get those permits. And I had a lot of help from Red Bull and people in the ice climbing community. And so it took a while, but just getting mauled by a tree there. But yeah, it's a long process. The climb was difficult, but the permits were really difficult. That's what took the most amount of time.
Do you find that the red tape is the hardest part of what you do? Is just like getting to the act, like doing the climb is probably just the best part and probably so rewarding for you, but like the red tape around it to actually do the climb must be annoying.
Yeah, for Niagara Falls in particular, most of the time we're lucky enough to still live in a world where we can go ice climbing and climb, paddling and paragliding with relatively few restrictions. So But on a project like Niagara, yeah, it was like I spoke at a construction conference yesterday, and we were all laughing about the permitting process for Niagara because they go through the same thing, and it's it's like we know how to build stuff. That's the easy part. But yeah, I think it's a common problem, and for good reason. You can't have people putting up random buildings or random people climbing Niagara Falls. That's not going to work out.
How does production, TV, film still fit into your life? You mentioned you were in publishing, but does that like scratch a different creative itch for you? And like, kind of what does that look like right now?
Yeah, I really like doing TV programs, and I'm moving more toward doing, I used to do sort of 2 or 3 big ones a year, and I'm moving more toward doing multiple small ones. That seems to be, the long form content works on Netflix, but pretty hard to do elsewhere. And plus it's more fun to do different things. So I'm doing more short form stuff, smaller crews again. And for me, that's more fulfilling at this point, but I've got a couple big ones still in the can for sure.
What is there anything you can talk about? Is there anything that you can mention?
Well, a really cool one was last summer getting a scientist, planetary geologist. So this one, super smart, figures out how planets form. And I was helping her in Baffin Island get rock samples to further her research. So that's pretty cool. And that film is done and will be coming out. And that was a big production. And a couple other ones I can't talk about yet. There's good things coming.
Whether it's ice climbing, paragliding, kayaking, do you still get nervous? Do you still get adrenaline rushes, or has your body just taken this total zen state that you're like everything's chill and cool and like you have that mountain attitude and that chill sense about you?
Well, if I get a big adrenaline rush, something has probably gone fairly seriously wrong. So I try to avoid that. And I never got into these sports because of the adrenaline. It was like, they're really interesting and really difficult to do well. Like if I just wanted adrenaline, I could go run back and forth on the highway, right? Tons of adrenaline there. I could wear a blindfold and get shitloads of adrenaline that way. But that's not why we do mountain sports. It's because they're really rewarding and beautiful and with good people and good places. And so that's the reward for sure. But so I don't, if I'm scared, for example, then I tend to stop and try and figure out why and what's going on and listen to that fear, not ignore it. I think that's one of the great sort of fallacies of our age is you're trying to overcome your fear in the mountains. And I don't think that's a good idea. Like overcome your fear to call for a date. Excellent idea. Pick up that phone. It's a numbers game. Get it done.
Dating advice with Will Gadd. Yeah. I wasn't expecting this. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, overcome your fear. Pick up that phone, And but for things like if you feel fear in the mountains, then you should listen to that and try to figure out what's going on and fix it. That's not a place where you overcome your fear. In high consequence environments like the mountains always are, you don't want to be like, you don't want to be like the YouTube guy. I got this. No, that's not the way forward. We want to be good at what we do and safe.
Would you say it has a lot to do with respecting Mother Nature and what it's telling you and being able to read it?
I think the mountains are very, very real. There is no mysticism here. It's like you either get it right or you get chopped off. And the mountains care zero about us. We are irrelevant. I think it's really important to go at it with an attitude of humility and be like, yeah, we are inconsequential here. And what we need to do is act that way and stay out of the way of the dangerous stuff. It's not, I think humans, we tend to think we're something special and we're not. We're just another chunk of dirt wandering around. So get out of the way.
I especially feel that, when I'm out there in the Rockies, is there something kind of like, I feel the insignificance, but there's something kind of beautiful about being, and it makes me feel more connected to everything else, feeling so small and insignificant, right?
Well, I think the anthropologists and science, the people who study this would argue that we're really well suited for this environment, right? Like, this is great. We're wired for it. We do feel connected to it, and we do feel involved because we have to be to make good decisions here. And so when we get into the city, we're not really built to be like surrounded by a lot of other people who we don't know, like, it's kind of a hostile environment in your average city compared to being out here, and the dangers are often not things we're super good at dealing with. Whereas out here, we we know to take care when there's a big drop off or something else, and yeah.
I kind of regret not setting this up for in person that we could hike together.
That would have been great.
I'm a little jealous right now of your hiking.
Yeah, she's going fast. I can't go her as fast as she can in dock. So
as your wife, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's Take This Outside now has a newsletter. Keep up to date with outdoor news, events, and great discount codes and deals from our partners. Sign up today at letstakethisoutside.ca.
How do you take what you've learned from your adventures into your everyday life as a partner and a dad?
Well, I think it's all the same to me. You know, people talk about like risk management. We do that on the job or in the mountains, but we also do that with our kids. And the idea is to set our minds and our systems up so that we can do the stuff we really want to do with an acceptable level of risk. And it's never risk-free. Anything worthwhile has both an up and a downside, which is kind of the definition of risk. So I'm running that all the time and trying to teach my kids. You know, we've got this bumps and bruises, hospital death, consequence scale that we use. And I use that with guests as well. It's like, you know, if something goes sideways here, what's the outcome? So yeah, it's all the time. And I think, you know, people don't think about it. We're making those decisions when we're driving, skiing, climbing, whatever. It's all the same matrix. And the more you work with that, the better you get at it. And the more conscious and solid you can make it. So yeah, all the time.
I'm assuming that your wife is quite an accomplished climber herself.
Yeah, she's a Association of Canadian Mountain Guides alpine guide and examiner for the ACMG, and very, very good ice climber, and yeah, phenomenal in the mountains. She's better at it than I am. She's very, very good. I'd send the kids out with her before me.
I was going to say, does that have anything to do with the fact that she's a woman and maybe she has a different level of care than you gentlemen do? Or?
Yeah, I've had to deal with sort of gender slash sex slash, you know, however you want to look at it, stereotypes or differences my whole career. When I started this, I was like, everybody's the same, you know. It's like we shouldn't treat somebody differently because they're male or female, and that's not so accurate. People do learn really differently. And as a good instructor, you always want to pay attention to the person and how they learn. But I find that most women are a lot better than they think they are. They have a higher level of skill, whereas most men think they're better than they are. And I'll be honest, I'm totally sexist about that with guys. I'm like, I got my eye on you. Yeah.
What I was saying was that, yeah, I find that women maybe have a more sense of care and patience, and but what you're saying about when it comes to men and like being more, that also translates into the workplace. Like there's a stat about men, say there's a job application, there's 10 qualifications. If men have like 2, like a bunch of men will apply. If women don't have 10 of them, we won't apply. I don't know the exact stat of that, but that translates into almost a lot of things in life still in 2023, right?
Well, as a dad of 2 daughters, I also have to deal with this, right? And I think a lot of the reason men often get better faster at these sports is they just hog the time in any situation. And so they do it more and they're overconfident. And so it either works out or it doesn't. But yeah, I think it's a spectrum. You know, there's men who fall very much toward what we think is of the female side of the spectrum, and women who fall very much toward the male side of it. But I don't think we want to try and treat, you know, we want to deal with the individual and figure out where they are to get the best results for them as educators. But we do have to deal with these differences, and it's, you know, I teach women generally differently than I teach men to get better results. But I don't know, I'll probably get some hate mail on that one or something, but that's how I see it.
I don't think so at all. What have your daughters latched onto when it comes to the outdoors? What are they into?
Well, one daughter is into gymnastics, so but she loves to go mountain biking, and she's a wicked little boulderer and loves to just be outside and do stuff. And the older one is climbing and likes going hiking, and backpacking is great for both of them. That's probably our main sort of all family activity, is to go backpacking or road tripping together, and that's what we do, is hike places. And you know, my older daughter's 15. My version of hiking and hers don't always line up, but you know, once we get out there, she usually has a pretty good time. And that's just, you got to kind of, your job as a parent is not always to do what the kid wants. Sometimes you got to lead a bit and get them out there.
What is that sport for you that kind of grounds you that you always kind of end up doing? Is it climbing? Is it hiking? Is it like for me it's hiking. I just get to slow down and
Yeah.
breathe in nature. Like what is it for you?
I think just moving outside is the best thing for me. You know, the climbing is really
Mhm.
good, but one of the reasons we're going climbing where we're going climbing today is it's this big walk up there. And we know, you know, we've got some business problems to resolve right now, just standard life stuff that you have to sort through. And sometimes it's challenging. And I know I'm going to feel a lot better about it when I get up there than I did sitting at my desk at, 7:30 this morning, trying to make sense of it all. So yeah, for you, it's hiking. I'd say hiking for me too, but a good day on the river, that's gorgeous. A good day climbing, good day paragliding. I don't think these sports are as separate as people tend to look at them. Um, they're all kind of getting you out into beautiful places and doing cool things.
I was going to ask, and I know you're going to go climbing in just a second here, and you're probably going to run out of service soon, so I won't keep you much
I
longer.
actually stopped. I've got to go to the canyon here, and I don't want to lose you. We're getting this done after like 8 tries, so I'm not giving
I
up.
know, no, I know, I know. I'm very happy with this.
Yeah, that's better.
How does you kind of just answered it, but how does the outdoors and nature play into what you do when it comes to care and climate change? I'm sure you see it in ice climbing over the years, and maybe the weather in Canmore. And how does that all intertwine for you?
When I was a kid, we would go to the Athabasca Glacier, get out of the car, and the glacier was sort of a very short stroll away. And now it's up over a rock hump, down a little valley, across the flats. It's a very long way away. And I see that all over the world. So for me, climate change isn't abstract. I'm seeing it first person. People say, well, it's happened before. It's like, yes, but not at this rate. I think that's very, very conclusive. And we're driving that. So I am trying to be an advocate for looking at that differently and also sharing the experience of what I see with people. I don't want to lecture them. I want to show them, because I think it's pretty darn obvious. Like, maybe if you live in Toronto or New York or a big city, like imagine if you showed up and half your office building was missing. And that's what happens to me when I go to march up a glacier with a guest to get to a climb, and the glacier is completely different. And now we're having that happen every season here in the Rockies. Same with guides in the Alps and the Andes and the Himalaya. This is really radical. And so for me, it's a drive to try and be part of the solution and just spread what I show. I show what I can, spread it around to people. But yeah, it's a big deal.
I'll make sure to link all of your everything that you're doing in the show notes and everything. But the whole point of this podcast, and let's take this outside, is to encourage people to do what they love in the outdoors. It could
Yeah.
be walking, it could be paragliding. If you have any very like basic advice for people who are like, I should probably try that thing that I've always wanted to try, or I want to do that thing more that I know I love and I don't have time for, what would you say?
Go do it. You just go, you know, most of these things, one of the great things about these sports, like if you want to play in the NBA or some pro sports league, you're not getting on the floor with LeBron James or whatever sports idol you have. But you walk out the door here, you could go and you're in this beautiful place right away, the best of the best. And I think that's magic about the outdoors. And you have to get some education, but I do think we're relatively well adapted, generally speaking, to seeing the hazards in the natural environment in a way sometimes we aren't in cities. It's like we see a bear, we're like, a bear, generally, most people, or a thunderstorm coming. It's like, yeah, get to shelter. Those things are pretty basic. But some education, going out with a group. There's alpine clubs and hiking clubs and groups of people that have some collective knowledge almost everywhere in the world. So get a hold of them. And, we in the outdoors, we're proselytizers. We're like, this is great. You should do it. We'll take you for free. So yeah, get involved and and get out there. I'm actually speaking on Sunday to a group of new Canadians in the Filipino community here. They're awesome. They've been getting out in the mountains, but I'm going to talk about exactly what we're talking about, some of the common hazards and how to deal with them. And yeah, they're doing great. They're out there all the time, and they're not super experienced, but listen to that fear too. If it feels weird, don't do it.
My sister and a bunch of friends in Calgary in the area, every time I go out there, they're like slow. Like, it's almost like I feel like the next time I'm there, there's going to be an intervention for me to move there. I feel like I'm like, we need to talk. You need to come out here. So
awesome.
Hopefully we can go for a hike sometime, or or maybe I can get you to guide me up a nice climb or something. I would love that.
To. I'd love that. And yeah, I would encourage, I do think what you just said, people get worried, they read about the one media report of a bear incident or something, and they're like, that's going to happen every day. But in the valley there's hundreds, if not thousands of people hiking around every day and not making the media. It's like, you got pretty good odds in this place of getting back. So don't let that stop you. Get out there. You can do it. Take your kids. They're way better behaved outside than they are inside. So are you. It's not just about the kids behaving better. The parents do better too. We're in control of the environment. Oddly, by losing control, we get control. Like, you're either hungry, cold, or tired. We could fix those things out here. Whereas in the city, you got all these weird things you got to deal with, It's really complicated. But kids and adults do way better out here. So I just hope that everybody has the chance to do that.
Will, thank you so much for taking time. I'm so glad we could finally do this.
Yeah, thank you for your flexibility and dealing with some of the chaos of my life. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, in all seriousness, I owe a huge debt to everybody that taught me how to do these outdoor activities. And if they drop me a line, I will reply. Sometimes, as you know all too well, I'm a bit slow on that, but I will get back to you. I'd love to help, and I hope to see you out there. Just take this outside. I think that's your tagline.
Yeah, let's take it outside. Yeah. It's the best.
Thanks for listening. For more Let's Take This Outside, go to letstakethisoutside.ca.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.